All right, guys, we're recording. I want to say hello today to Kent and Charlie for joining me on our first Mountain Patriots Educational Ministries podcast. And before we get started, before we tell you a little bit more about us, I'm going to ask Charlie, since we are a spiritual ministry and a conservative ministry, I want to ask my friend Charlie here to start us off with a prayer. Charlie?
Yes, sir. Let us pray. Dear Lord, thank you for this opportunity to discuss all of these issues that are on our mind with like-minded souls, to share this with people who might be interested. Help us to share our opinions, to share the truth, to share what we have learned and our enthusiasm for making this country better. Thank you for this wonderful world, and give us the wisdom and the discretion to say the right thing at the right time and be aligned with your Bible, your biblical worldview, and help us to help others help others. Jesus, in your name we pray. Amen.
Amen. All right, Charlie, thank you. We always start off, we have to, man, because if it wasn't for God, we wouldn't have a country. That's how we look at it. So I'll start off by telling you, my name's Dana B. I'm a compliance guy. I've been doing health care and compliance for the last 25 years. And I had an idea about 3.5 years ago to start a civil kind of defense or neighborhood watch. And we have, just to give you a little background about us, we started this about 3 years ago as a community watch. And we are a Christian-based Mountain Patriots Educational Ministries. It's a Christian-based conservative cadre of citizens that actually love our county, our country, our city. We love our life, our liberty, and our pursuit of happiness right here. And we want to try to do things from a local level. So a lot of what we're talking about today will not only be national, but it'll be local. And we've been doing this for almost just the last 3 years. We have 7 different ministries that we're working on right now. We meet every single week and we work on these ministries, and they happen to be our spiritual ministry. We have an educational ministry for the children and our educational system, learning the Constitution and our Bill of Rights, a spiritual civil defense ministry to be prepared, a preparedness ministry, a community ministry to help people in need. And we also have in our community ministry, we take care of things like elections, election integrity, and we get ready for things like that. And what we decided to do, for example, in our community ministry is on June 28th, to give you an idea, we'll be doing a conference called the Wake Up Winchester Health and Freedom Conference. And we will have our elected officials, a lot of our elected officials here from Frederick County, explaining what they actually do. Most people don't have an education in civics in our local government. We thought it would be a great way to bring the community together, learn how the sheriff works or the commissioner of the revenue or your county attorney. And that'll be on the 28th of next month. So we always think about it. Did you ever wonder who you elected and why? Well, we're going to try to help that out, as well as have some great speakers at the same time. And that's going to be on June 28th at the Millwood Station Fire Hall. So with that being said, we're going to move on to some topics today, and I'm going to let Charlie tell you a little bit about himself, and then Kent, all yours, Charlie.
Thanks, Dana. I'm a resident of Winchester area for almost 10 years. I've discovered Mountain Patriots a couple years ago, and they were exactly what I was looking for. So I jumped in, and now the vice chair. A little bit of my background, I wrote a column, for a conservative column, in the Percival Gazette for 4 years, a weekly column. And I got a half a page, and a liberal got the other half of the page. And we got a lot of feedback that we were just a train wreck. So that meant we were telling the truth. We were saying the right things. I ran a meetup at my home for about 10 years and had between 12 and 24 people showing up every month, and including a lot of interesting speakers. And I'm a conservative, constitutional believing Christian. And I want this country to thrive. And this is my contribution to just that. So we're looking forward to stating our opinions and purely our opinions. This is whatever I say, you have to know that that's my opinion, my interpretation of what I'm looking at.
Do your
And I
own
look at
research.
people I trust as and go from there. So, Kent, a little about yourself.
Yeah, thanks, Charlie. My name's Kent. I live up here in eastern Warren County, up in the Blue Mountain area. My wife and my daughter, relocated up here about 5 years ago. It was kind of a temporary thing, but I think in the long run, we're probably going to wind up sticking out in this area. I recently retired after 25 years of U.S. government service. That put my retirement in January of 2024. And kind of really enjoying retirement, especially at a young age. Get to spend a lot of time with my family. We do a lot of camping trips in the summertime and just kind of get out and explore the area along the East Coast. And by happenstance, I kind of discovered this group by accident. I was sitting in my recliner, which I'm a champion of doing, and monitoring my GMRS radio. I got into GMRS just by watching YouTube stuff. I always thought it was kind of fascinating. And I heard, matter of fact, I heard Dana do the roll call and kind of piqued my interest, given my background. And it took a couple months for me to actually track down the CTCS tone codes. When I finally did, I finally got a hold of these guys, and lo and behold, here I am. And it's been a lot of
Glad to
fun.
have you.
Thank you.
Been
It's been
fun.
it's been a lot of fun, and you never know where life's going to take you. You kind of look at life as a book, and you just turn the page, and there you are, 1 minute. And so I try to help out as much as I can, and I'm really enjoying it. I'm kind of enjoying doing this podcast. And so my expertise, I was an instructor and a course designer, and kind of enjoy helping people out.
Amen. Well, guys, thanks a lot. And like I was saying, I'm a compliance guy, and that's not one of the things that I like to hear nowadays, comply. So I worked in the business world with unions and accountants and brokers and so forth. And there's so many different avenues and so many different um, people, types of jobs and so forth that everybody in Mountain Patriots, it's a completely, for lack of a better term, I'm going to use the word diverse in a positive way. Um, a group of just some great men and women patriots of all ages, and we have a great time every Monday night. So what we wanted to do is bring stuff to the forefront, a little bit about what's happening nationally, as well as what's going on and how it kind of affects our area right here in the Warren County, Frederick County, Clark County area, and give people a little bit of flavor on how that's working. So we were talking about DOGE the other day, Charlie. So I'm going to throw the ball to you on DOGE because we've had uh, a lot of flack and a lot of positive and a lot of negative on this thing, and we wanted to kind of put our opinions and our thoughts out there as well.
Yeah. And just want to set the stage a little bit because the DOGE has been and is being challenged by people saying they're unelected. Well, there was only one person in the whole administration that was elected, and that was Trump.
Right.
All the rest are unelected bureaucrats or unelected appointees. And it's President Trump's responsibility to see that the funds allocated by Congress are properly spent.
Mm-hmm.
And over the past many years, many parts of the government have avoided being audited. They have been the farthest thing from being transparent. So with that, a lot of things go on that are hidden. And all DOGE is doing, and DOGE existed before in a different name, and it was
In the Obama administration, they started
Obama
it.
created it. or he might have tweaked it, but it still existed. And by the way, every president in the past has said we need to root out waste, fraud, and abuse.
Right.
So that's all that DOGE is doing. And what's not that Congress has given up their responsibility in a way, because they don't say exactly what needs to be done in the bill. There's a lot of vagaries in there
Pork.
that can be turned into pork and are turned into pork, not before our eyes, but behind the curtain.
Right.
So that or another way that Congress has failed is that's to do oversight. In fact, there are congressmen that have been denied access and information going on in the administration when they should have complete oversight and transparency.
Mm-hmm.
So with that lack of clarity from Congress on what is to be done, the president still has a responsibility to see that we don't wastefully spend things or intentionally fraudulently spend things. And everybody's saying, yeah, well, we even have a commission to do that. There was a commission a decade or two ago, the Grace Commission, to go in and root out
right.
waste. And none of that works. And to President Trump's credit and Elon's credit, they decided that they need
To do it.
stir up things in order and I had this thought when we had the Grace downsizing in my or I spent 30 years in the government also in engineering. I thought what they should do, there was a 10% reduction. They should send everybody out in the parking lot and then invite the rest, the remainder that's going to be there in, and just as a visual. That's kind of what they're doing. And they say, okay, everybody out in the parking lot, and then like USAID, oh, wait a minute,
Right.
there's pieces of this that are important, and to the Trump's and Elon's
Credit.
their benefit, they're being reasonable about this. They say, okay, well, we'll take these two programs and put them in the State Department. But there's all the rest of this stuff that they have exposed that is doing bad. And there's one other thing that a point I wanted to make to begin with, is that Elon is the ideal guy to use AI and go in and look at all of these things that congressmen have been unable to do. And using AI has exposed and will expose trillions of reduction in government. And I truly think with AI, and that's a whole nother subject, but AI should be used on every budget bill, every bill that comes out of Congress or that is in Congress ready to be passed, so that we can have AI give us a paragraph or a page or 10 pages of detail on what it's all about and what's hidden where. Instead of being a congressman given a bill 2,000 pages, 20,000 pages, and overnight to read it. So what DOGE is doing is something that should be installed and instilled into our government from now on.
Yep.
And just as an example, yesterday, a couple of days ago, I heard the VA, they're looking at the VA. Everybody's afraid it's going to take stuff away from the veterans. Well, they've looked at 2% of the contracts, just 2% of all the contracts that go out to support the VA in the private sector.
$900 million.
they showed a waste of over $900 million in just that 2%. So there is so much opportunity that it's a target-rich environment.
Yep. Hey, Charlie, let me ask you this. Would you just hand somebody else your checkbook without taking a look at it?
No way.
I
No,
mean,
my
it's
credit
kind of
card.
right. It's kind of the same thing. I mean, we're putting gas into somebody else's car and we're not even driving to work with them. It's kind of a shame. You know, if you
Yeah.
hand somebody we'll call it a bill, a list, for example, of groceries, and somebody goes out and you hand them a blank credit card and you wanted $100 worth of groceries, they come back with $600 worth of groceries and can't tell you where that is, you have a serious problem. So you have to, if we break it down to the basic level of where we are, there's got to be oversight on what actually happens without you just can't spend from I wish I had a checkbook like that. I'd be on vacation every day. The problem though with the Doge thing, the biggest problem is most of them, Charlie, really don't want anybody to see it because they're all wrapped up into getting pieces of it. You know, and we've got some charts we can show in a second. Kent, what's your take on it?
Well, I mean, if you've been following all this stuff, every day is a
Yeah.
new day. There's a lot of money that's being uncovered on where it's being spent. In the National Institute of Health, they've had several programs canceled due to DOGE. One being $620,000 for a quote, an LGB plus inclusive teen pregnancy prevention program for transgender boys. End of quote.
Amazing. We need
So,
that though.
what's amazing, ever since civilizations have been around, there's been two genders. And then all of a sudden from the year 2020 to recently there was 75 and now we're back to two.
These are the count.
699,000 for studying quote cannabis use among sexually minority gender diverse individuals. $699,000. 740,000 for examining quote unquote social networks among Black and Latino sexual minority men in New Jersey. What's going on in New Jersey? 50,000 for assessing sexual health among LGBTQ plus Latino youth in agricultural communities. 50,000. And then this is all part of NIH. So 75,000 for researching structural racism, which is ridiculous. And so this process on how tax money is scammed is, you and I are taxed, the American people are taxed. Taxes go to a place like USAID. Leftists create an NGO, which is non-governmental organizations.
Correct.
These non-governmental organizations are funded by USAID, and leftists
Mhm.
go into NGOs and do zero real work.
And where's
NGO,
the money go back to?
well,
Zero oversight.
NGOs pay leftists huge salaries, and then leftists donate salaries from the NGO to the Dems. And that's why the Dems are freaking out over Trump and Elon killing the USAID. It's very
Absolutely.
simple. They're very upset at one man who's uncovering all this wasteful spending, but no one's calling him a liar. That's the big point about it. I actually had a quote unquote conversation / disagreement with a family member via text. And his concern was, well, Elon's going to have all this information about the American people and all this stuff like this. And I told him, I said, I'm not worried about Elon. If you've had PayPal since 1998,
They have your information.
Elon's already got my information. But so does Department of Motor Vehicles. Every state I've lived in,
Every
uh,
hospital.
yep, every house I owned, every United States government has all my information. Foreign countries that I've been to have my information. The banks have my information. Every time I bought a vehicle, they have my information. I'm not really worried about Elon having my information, and people who have $20 in their checking account shouldn't be worried about a billionaire having access to your information. The thing is, when you look at it this way, if you're having money stolen from your bank account and the bank hires an investigator to track down to find out what's going on, where's the money going, right? Not only your account's being stolen, but other accounts.
Well, hold
Y-
on, Kent.
y-
Let me add something to that. I don't want somebody to take a look into my bank account at the bank to find out that my money's being stolen,
well, of
which is
course not.
basically what they're saying.
Well, that's what Elon's doing. So
Right.
Elon is doing the investigation, and in the same under the same parameters. If your money's being stolen and the investigator's finding out where it's going, why are you mad at the investigator? So
That's my point.
none of this makes sense. And um, I'll say this for DOGE is probably the most transparent group. I will say that. And
That we've seen.
this is not nothing new. There's always been talks of cuts of government for decades. It happened under Reagan, and there was a slight recession. It definitely happened under Clinton. Clinton had cut over 400,000 jobs, and at the time when I was applying for federal service, I was denied several jobs because of the cuts. And the cuts are continuing. This is not something new. This is not something that was just invented a couple of months ago. This is part of the problem. And if you look on the Department of Government Efficiency's webpage, it's totally transparent. One of the first things you can click on is savings, and anybody can do this. Right now, the current estimated savings is $115 billion, which, when you break it down to each individual taxpayer, that's $714.29 per person in the United States.
But nobody needs that money and they don't want anyone to investigate why somebody's stealing that money, Kent.
It's just, it doesn't make any sense, right? And it even breaks it down, guys, into a list of numbers on the most saved uh, from what DOGE has done. Is number one, they started with the GSA, which is General Service Administration. And right now, number two is the Department of Education, right? They just made some massive changes this
Massive
week.
cuts yesterday.
And I'll just read off the top five here because you guys can find this on the webpage. But number three is the EPA.
Hmm.
Number four is the Department of Labor, and number five is Office of Personnel Management. Of course, that's where I get my retirement check from.
Hmm.
Um, and
Lee
then,
Zeldin's doing a big job with the EPA, my friend.
yeah, and then the least read off the top five here for the least saved currently is Department of State. They're at the bottom right now. National Aeronautics and Space Administration and NASA, Department of Energy, Department of Transportation, and guess what? Well, I can't believe this, but Department of Justice is one, one at
Amazing.
the bottom, and then right after that would be Department of Defense. But yeah, it's it's shocking in a lot of ways. Some of it's not surprising, especially if you had to deal with it for many years. But the bottom line is that the people don't know what's going on. And then when you actually see the numbers, anybody could scroll through the page here. You'll be surprised on how much stuff is being spent
Let
under
me
the
see if I can do that while you're doing that.
what's that?
I'm going to see if I can't pull this up while you're doing that, Kent.
Yep, I'll just tell you this, under the executive branch, there's over 2 million, there's 2.2 million employees.
This is
Uh,
just recently.
yeah,
This is right under DOGE.
this is the DOGE, this is their webpage, not on X.
This is on, I'm just pulling up X because there's an awful lot of stuff just today in the last 2 days that's happening,
Yep,
and there's a lot of these little, what we like to call digital soldiers that are actually out there digging up what has been done. So
yep,
it's not the fact that somebody just posts something on X. There's a lot of people like us that go back behind the scenes and actually look at these sites and bring it all together at the same time. So we know that we're not trying to just make up numbers, which is what's happened to us all the time, which is why we pay, which is our next topic, is taxes.
there you go.
Charlie, let's shift gears a little bit, guys, in the essence of timing. We were talking about DOGE and that leads us.
One thing I want to mention,
Yeah, Charlie.
if you don't mind,
No, don't go for it.
you mentioned the seven ministries. One is spiritual.
Mm-hmm.
What DOGE is doing is, as a result of violating of people violating one of the 10 Commandments. Thou shalt not steal.
Right. Great point.
It is being stolen from us. So, and obviously,
Absolutely.
that's not one of their worries or
No.
inclinations. So anyway, go ahead.
But you just hit something, it's funny. Last night, just tagging on to what you said, there's Paul, what's it, Gundry? I think it's Gundry, who's the governor of
Oh, no, okay.
Louisiana. Yeah, of
Different.
Louisiana, yeah, who put the 10 Commandments in, didn't see any problem with it until he put the 10 Commandments back in. But this does a lot to us, especially when it comes to taxes, because when you start, for lack of better terms, laundering all of this money, they took all of those credit cards, hundreds of thousands of credit cards, and Elon and Trump put them back down to where they could only have $1 worth of credit on. So you've got all of these people in government agencies out there with credit cards, swiping it and so forth, and paying for things with our tax dollars. No wonder we have a $36 trillion debt. We're just handing these cards out. We're handing out money. People are having parties on it. And that brings us right into the entire tax system. Charlie, what do you have to say about the tax system, Charlie? Because I worked in it for the last 25 years, and I could give you all kinds of bits and pieces on it. But what's your take on our tax system and the accountability of it, especially with the IRS now, and you've got um, the Internal Revenue Service, and now Trump's trying to put in the External Revenue Service, which is our tariffs, which I think is going to be a great way of doing things. It'll be a little rocky to begin with, but in the end, it's going to work out pretty well. So what's your take, Charlie?
Yeah, I think the tax system, taxes are supposed to be an incentive. Our tax deductions are an incentive to do something, you get a tax deduction. Incentive to buy an electric car, you get a tax deduction. Incentive to build a factory, you get a tax deduction. All of that has the capability to be manipulated.
Absolutely.
And K Street lives off of lobbying. Lobbying is a big part of the tax code. Whenever I used to do my own taxes, probably 20 years ago, every time I would read the instructions going through, I would get angry.
Mm-hmm.
My blood pressure would go up.
Mm-hmm.
It's just, it's become ridiculous with the amount. It's so confusing, the tax code, that you can call 5 different accountants and get 5 different opinions.
And get 100 different things on your tax return. They'll do it 100 different ways. I've seen it for years.
Yeah.
Everybody
Yeah.
has a different number. They can't figure it out.
And if you don't, and it's weaponized too. It's if you don't believe the right things and do the right things, then you're going to get an audit.
Or 87,000 tax auditors, IRS
Yeah,
agents.
and audits only benefit the accountants and the lawyers. Nobody else benefits from that. And it's just a mess. And I hear discussion, well, why don't we have just a flat tax or a sales tax, increase the sales tax? Or Trump's coming on right now with tariffs. And before, in the 1880s sometime, up until then, the government was totally run by tariffs.
Absolutely.
Now, if we could get back to that, I don't know, that would be a reason to get rid of the IRS, which was invented in what, 1913?
1913. And that was when they put in the central bank. And that's the big problem right now. And I hope people do some research on 1913 and the central bank and what happened and how they put the IRS in here to actually enslave us. And then you start adding to it little by little by little. Inflation is cumulative. Okay. And then you work it all the way up to the gold standard and eliminate the gold that backs the currency. And there's nothing to back anything. But you're right, Charlie. You do a tax return, you hand it to 100 different accountants, you get 100 different things. And we spend a lot of our income just trying to be able to keep up with we have to pay for something for everything. Your accountant, your bookkeeper, and this person, and this person, and this person. So the money you make, we're trying to protect ourselves with a little bit that's left. Kent, what's your take on the IRS?
Well, I'd like it to go away, but I don't think that's realistic.
I think my gut tells me in the next year or so, we probably see the IRS disappear. That's what
Well,
I'm hearing.
somebody still needs to collect some of the taxes, I would think, unless all business gets no taxes.
I think we're going to end up with flat taxes, and I think we're going to end up with some state taxes. But I think most of the federal taxes are going to go away. And if the tariffs work out the way they should work out, um, we should have a lot of money in our pocket. But we'll just kind of discuss that and watch how it goes over the next few
Oh,
weeks
yeah.
and months. We got to keep our finger on the pulse on that because there's a lot of movement when you're looking at DOGE and you're looking at USAID and you're looking at Bondi and you're looking at cash and everything else at the same time in Ukraine and everything else that's going on. I think we have to keep our
Well,
fingers on the pulse.
K Street is going to mobilize when the tax codes start to go away.
Well, something's up.
Like every other aspect of DOGE, it's been met with lawsuits and protests and uh, who knows, pretty soon violence. I don't know. We're goring their ox of the deep state, and
Something's up, though,
we've
Charlie.
got them cornered, and you got to watch out for a cornered rat.
Absolutely. Think about this. You've got Jamie Dimon, who JP Morgan is sold. Why are they selling everything out? Why are the Zuckerbergs and the Warren Buffetts and why are they doing what they're doing? And I know Kent watches this pretty closely. He's like, if I want to make $180,000 a year and be a multimillionaire, what are they investing in? We've had that conversation quite a few times. But they're selling a lot of stuff off, which kind of tells you something. And also, Charlie, you made a really good point about when these folks literally, and they will get caught, it's a matter of time. What's going to happen with a cornered rat? And I think we'll cover that probably in our next podcast on what could happen when we talk about cybersecurity and things like that and being prepared for that in one of our ministries. Ken, I'm sorry, brother. Back to you, buddy, with the Treasury and the tax system. I know you followed a lot of this.
Yeah, well, I just did my taxes. At least I had my accountant
Me
do it
too.
for me down in Florida. And even being retired on a trimmed income, I think I still owe the federal government about $4,000 in taxes. And
Right.
I mean, good, and
Never before.
when it rains, it pours, and I try to offset income with
Investments.
have investments and I try to buy assets as opposed to liabilities. But man, you can't. It's really hard to even stay ahead because I have a rental property down in Florida where
Capital gains.
I'm charging. I think I make twice as much on that property than I pay on my mortgage here. But they practically cover my mortgage, but I still got to pay a tax
Right.
on the entire thing. So I'm really walking away breaking even. Um,
With the headache
with a head,
of
yeah,
having that property. Exactly.
exactly. And matter of fact, while you guys are talking, I just got an email from my property manager saying that the ice machine's broken. So it's one more headache after the next, right? So I got to pay
Just
for it.
saying. Yep.
But yeah, so it's kind of a double-edged sword. I feel like you're trying to dig yourself out of a hole, and when you get up to the top, you're back into it again. I'm looking at the household tax brackets, and this is just for the federal tax. This is not for the state of Virginia that we live in.
Different.
But if you're a head of a household, um, we'll just say head of the household, right? You're not filing jointly on this. Your tax rate is 10% to the United States government. That's up to $16,550
Yep.
a year. And
I'm
you're still
looking
going to
at
get
it.
paid. You're going to get paid 10. You have to pay 10% on that. It jumps to, The increments jump by 2%. So if it's between 16,551 to 63,100, you're paying 12%. For most people, it's 63,000. I think the average salary is around 65,000 in the
Almost
United States.
65, yeah.
So this is where everybody's paying right here. So 63,101 to $100,500 is 22%. That's 22% of your money
Mhm.
is going to these programs that DOGE is uncovering, and yeah, people are upset. Naturally so. I'm upset about it, right? And then if you're trying to get ahead, if you want to make over 100 grand from 100 501 to 191 950, it jumps up to 24%. So you're at another 2%. However, it goes up 8% once you're at 191,951 to 243,700. And for most people, especially up in the Northern Virginia area, that's where dual incomes are going to be in that target range, and they're paying 32%. It goes up another 3% at 243,701 to 609,000. Man, can you imagine making $609,000? Holy smokes. But you're paying 35% of that in federal,
Right.
and it jumps up another 2%, 37% at 609, 351 or more. So, but you're not even adding in Virginia tax. And once you start adding Virginia income tax, along with everything else, you're paying a lot in tax, probably up to, 50, 60%, because you got to buy food, you got to pay tax on that.
Fuel
Everything,
tax, gas tax,
everything that runs in the
Car
everything's got a
system,
tax.
tax.
you got to pay
Thumb
tax on it.
tax.
People are afraid to take out of their investments because once
Capital gains
you got to
tax.
pay tax on it, and it's a never-ending wheel. And what the thing is that when you have over 189 different federal entities in the system, they have to be funded, and we're spending a lot of money in taxes. And at the same time, my biggest gripe is we spend all this money on taxes, but they can't fix the
What do we see?
roads.
Right. What do
We
we
can't
see?
fix the roads. Yeah. And
Look at the billions, Kent, that they spent on the charging stations. What was it, 8 billion? And they built eight.
they build eight. Where'd the rest
They
of the
built
money
eight,
go?
and six of the eight didn't work. Or
Look,
the railway system out in San Francisco. I mean,
look,
it's all
look
being
how
laundered.
look how outdated the gosh, and I hate to say this because I used to do a lot of flying, but look how outdated the towers are at airports. They're
TSA.
30, 40 years old. They're outdated towers. Why aren't those being fixed and repaired? Is unbeknownst to me. I have no idea. But this is why this is what DOGE is doing. They're uncovering all this money and where is it going? And a lot of people, they don't have an answer for it. But we're finding out that they're paying for all these ridiculous surgeries and stuff that you just can't comprehend. And it's our
That's a
money, and
good
people should be upset about it.
that's a good segue here because our next topic is actually DEI. Okay. And you brought up the TSA. We've talked about taxes. Um, and people literally, I feel bad for the people that some of the people, the hardworking people in the government that all losing their jobs that are down there, they're going to lose their houses and so forth. So you're looking at reading the tax code stuff. What happens when both of you work for the government, lose your job? I mean, there's a toughie there. But you were talking about transportation and the fact that we can't use the money to even to fix up what we actually have. And yet we're
Yeah,
looking, we go to our board of supervisors and so forth, and we watch the money and so forth, and schools and what have you. But then you have the towers, and this is not only a tax issue and a money issue, but it's a safety issue. And we had the whole DEI program that was put in where a lot of the people that were working for the TSA were DEI. It wasn't on a qualified person that's actually making sure that they have the merit and the skills and so forth. It was all
Competence.
broken down by class, color, DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusion, rather than on a skill set. What's your take on that as well? Got to end wokeness.
mine or Charlie's.
Yours.
Well,
Yeah,
well, it's where do you start really? It's
exactly.
for me, it's I was a part of that that cesspool, and it was
Would
one
you?
of the biggest reasons why I left a job that y- I really wasn't ready to leave, and I really enjoyed my work in helping others get to a place they need to be. But a lot of the stuff, it was force fed down our throats. We lost a lot of good, I'd say, type A people.
We
Um,
did too, Kent.
these are the people that you want in your corner. We would always say that it's the guys you keep in the cage and you let them out when the work needs to get done. And a lot of people, it was just a lost issue, and they left. And I was one of them. At some point you have to draw a line in the sand. But this is something that's not new. This is a continuation taken out of the Marxist playbook. And
You
really,
can't work your way to the top.
no,
If you work really hard,
no, it's really to cause division.
right?
You divide. You're not being, from what I witnessed and what I've seen, is you're not being inclusive. You divide and segregate, and you cause more of a problem and more of a riff, and you lose credibility with that. It becomes a trust issue,
Mhm.
and obviously you see the results because it's being broken up at this point by under executive orders. A lot of the stuff is just being destroyed and pushed out because they know it has no room into the workforce. There's a lot of jobs out there that require high demands of skill and safety, especially you got pilots, and I tell you,
Right.
I've been on a lot of airplanes. I never knew any pilot. I actually, the couple of ones that I flew with overseas, I knew, but for the most part, you don't know those pilots. I don't know what their training is. I don't know what's going on in their lives, what kind of,
Wing and a prayer.
yeah, and you just have to have the faith that they're skilled and qualified, and to do a job to land a monstrous, a missile full of fuel, and you're
Right.
just riding on this thing. I want qualified people. I don't care what color they are. I don't care
I
where they
don't even.
grew up.
Right.
That has nothing to do with it. Can you do the job? It's like using a Phillips screwdriver on a Phillips head, right? And not using a flathead screwdriver on a Phillips. It's not going to work. You might
And
be
a
able to get
hammer.
it, but it's probably not going to. Yeah, or use a hammer. It's the same
And a
thing.
hammer.
But it was really sad to see this kind of forced down people's throats, and it hurt everybody. It didn't hurt one group of people.
And
It
all of
hurt a
us.
lot of people. A
All of
lot of
us.
people were upset over it, and it needs to
Kent,
go.
I heard you say the other day that DEI means divide, exclude, and indoctrinate.
Yes,
Correct.
or
Yeah,
like
I
my
think that's really true.
yeah, like my
Hmm.
brother says, didn't earn it.
Didn't earn it.
But
And there's
but
that.
but yeah, there's specialty positions um, where you have to have a good amount of years under your belt, especially in an engineering group, especially in something that you're putting together complex pieces. And it's no offense to anybody, but you do have to start on the bottom and learn that skill set and learn that trade and learn
Right.
the mistakes and learn the errors. There's nothing wrong. A guy like me in my 40s, I was changing careers. I wanted to get into that stuff, and I didn't have any heartburn going to the bottom and learning how to do these things. But
We're used to
you
it.
have to do it. You have to
You
do
have
it.
to do it.
Yeah, and you just don't give somebody a position high up in leadership that has to make critical demands. It would have to be in funding because people have to approve these funding spends. All this spended money, it's got to be approved. You just don't have a credit card and go out and buy stuff.
Well, they
And if you
actually do.
yeah, and if you don't, yeah, well, but if you don't know the process,
There's a process.
you become a liability at that point, and
Mhm.
it just won't work. It's just going to be an endless wheel to nothing. It's just you're going to force out the good people where in turn you should have kept them there, and that's my thought on
Absolutely.
it.
But
Charlie, what are you thinking?
yeah, I'm thinking, I heard what Elon said in that what he's all about is and looking for people that are competent and caring.
Hmm.
Those two things. And DEI takes away the confident part, and and these are my words, and it covers up caring, or it allows you to pretend you're caring when you really don't, because you don't have the confidence, so you don't care.
Well, it's
And
funny. That's
right,
crazy. Look at the tolerance when you're talking about DOGE and all this other stuff. You know, we've been very, very tolerant towards, which is what Christian people are. We're tolerant towards people, and it just blows my mind of how intolerant that people are towards. We're talking about maybe 1.5% of the population. We're trying to change everything in the country and everything literally in the world for that 1% of the people under the controlled new world order.
yep, yep.
Yep.
And the controlled world order is being fueled, or is fueling, I'm not sure which it is, um, the speech. When under DEI and all this other crap, I call it the Democrats, the party of genitalia. You're not allowed to say a whole host of things because it might offend somebody. Well, freedom of speech gives us the freedom to offend somebody.
Absolutely. Shut your
You don't have the
ears.
right to not be offended. So if you've got everybody trying to use the right vocabulary, it's more important to know um,
Their pronouns.
their
Right.
pronouns than it is to be confident that you have merit-based promotions and merit-based hiring go away because you have to hire based on gender, on all of that stuff that doesn't mean a hill of beans to the outcome of what you or your company or your organization or your job requires you to do, wants you to do. If you say something wrong, you can get fired.
Mhm.
And it's not
Charlie,
just if you don't take the shot, it's if you misgender somebody or you say the wrong pronoun, you can get
right.
fired.
Mhm.
That's
You know,
totally ridiculous.
it's crazy you bring that up because I spent a lot of time in the benefit world, and I work with, over the course of over 25 years, hundreds and hundreds of business owners and especially HR departments. And when I started seeing this happen, I was thinking to myself, how is it possible for an HR person to literally keep their job, without messing something? There was absolute. I pray for a lot of the HR people, but then again, a lot of the HR people are part of the problem because they go along with it is at the same time. So they're picking on a lot of the people that are good to try to get those unwoke
It's called job
merit-based people
security.
out. But it's a catch-22.
It is.
You're a good HR person. You want to hire the best. I can't imagine being an HR for Charlie's company and hiring somebody that isn't qualified to do the job. Now Charlie's upset at me, but then the government comes back at Charlie because he didn't follow the DEI program. Okay, so there are all these hooks and catches, and no matter what way you turn, you're kind of messed up. So I'm going to switch gears again on us, guys, because this has been really good, and this kind of leads us into our our neck of the woods, which is Virginia. And as you both know, and the Mountain Patriots know, we have this conference coming up on June 28th, and it's going to be a lot of elected officials already, so we understand exactly what they do, so we're better in tune, so that this never happens again. We don't want to not know, you know. We want to know the questions to ask. That's why you did a great job on the Fourth, the Fifth, and the Sixth Amendment. I want to throw that in there because that was incredible. It was so good. You've done it almost three times.
Yeah, appreciate it. It's a lot
it,
of
it was
fun.
it was a lot of
Absolutely.
fun, and it did a lot for us. But here
I
we
learned it.
are. We're into election season, and a lot of people, since Trump became president, okay, they've kind of taken a back seat. Now, trying to get people out there. And most of us are members of the Republican committees, FCRC or Small Business Freedom Alliance or something. Go to board of supervisors, go to school board meetings and so forth to make sure this happens. But we have a big election that's coming up. And right now, Mountain Patriots is doing a lot by, as we did the last time, and we won, we actually had 8 of our 10 candidates win. And that was school board, board of supervisors, but it took a lot of work. But we are vetting all of the candidates that come in. So we have a few people that are running for governor, since Governor Youngkin is stepping aside. We have Winsome Sears that's running. We have Amanda Chase that's running. We have Dave LaRock that's running. We have people running for lieutenant governor. We have people running for school board and board of supervisors here and some other positions. So with that being said, we had the opportunity on Monday night to hear, and I guess we'll cover these as we go through these podcasts and we meet people, but we had the opportunity to meet with one of a good gentleman, really nice, fine gentleman, who was a delegate here in Frederick County by the name of Dave LaRock, who decided to throw his hat into the ring. We want to make sure, and we don't know who we're backing yet, folks. So I want to make that clear. Part of this exercise is to find the best person, not just say, hey, that person looks good or sounds good or smells good. They are good. They are constitutional people. So, Charlie, what was your take on that? Since you're pointing at me, I know you got something to say.
Yeah, I wanted to make a point. In my naivety, I joined the Loudoun County Republican Committee, and I was disappointed that it seemed like they didn't show up. I moved from Loudoun County to Frederick
Talk about
County,
the people, Charlie. The people didn't show up.
or the organization, the citizens, yeah,
the citizens. That's the important part.
And when I say show up, I mean find the best candidate. What you just described of what we're all about. And out in Frederick County, I joined the Frederick County Republican Committee, and I was still disappointed. And then I finally learned that their policy of the local county Republican Committee is not to endorse anybody during a primary, but to stand behind whoever is selected in the primary against the opposition, which is good. I'm not complaining about that. What I'm talking about is it's critically important to decide who wins the primary. And so that falls on the public, on the individual, to figure that out. Who's the best of all those Republicans running, or even all the Democrats running over on the other side? Who is the one person we want to back and support and make the biggest splash we can to get them to be the nominee of the Republican Party? And that won't happen through the Republican Committee. They will give them the forum to talk, but we as individuals, we the people, need to figure out, and you also use the word vet, to figure out what their backgrounds are and which person is the most true to conservatism, the most electable, the one who follows
the Constitution and the Bill of Rights
and our world of worldview. So what we are is working on that forum to try and bring some clarity, not sanity, because the system works. It's a system. So we need to, even though sometimes the systems are gamed, it's still a valid system. We don't need to throw the baby out with the bathwater. But let's figure out who is the best person to be in the primary. And that's one thing. And the second thing is election integrity.
We talked about that today.
Depends on us to step in and be the eyes and ears and help with election integrity.
We had a big meeting on that today. And at that meeting, we were talking, Ken, I'm sorry you couldn't have been there, but we had a big meeting today on election integrity and how we can, it doesn't happen in all of the counties in Virginia, which is what we're trying to fix, have people that are willing to step up. But since we noticed that Trump is pushing everything back to the states, abortion goes back to the states, taxes go back, everything goes to education goes back to the states. It's not business as usual. It's we have to have for each state what fits best for us, which is why the candidates that we look at that we research, we have to find the best candidate that is for Virginia. And we're doing a lot of work right now. I know we're coming out next week. We're meeting with, I think, pretty much the Royal Examiner and then our delegate that's out in Warren County, because we've got Warren County that's on the map with us, as well as Page County and Clark County and Loudoun County that we're starting to work with. But we have to make sure that we have the right person or persons, not only in Frederick County and Warren County, but we all work together to find the best candidate for Virginia. Kent, what's your take on that, especially after the conversation the other night? I think Mr. LaRock did a pretty good job as well. I think he was pretty forthcoming on a lot of different things, but we have a lot of work to do yet with other candidates too.
Yeah, it's to be honest with you, I haven't really spent a whole lot of time looking on the local level. I've been focusing more on the big level and the big part of things, because it's going to dictate whether I go back to work, believe it or not. Just how things are kind of moving through. So that might be a big change for me later on this year. But I think Dave was a very genuine person. I think it was an eye
I did
opener
too.
for him to come by and talk to us on Monday. I
I
think
think we surprised him
I
on
think
what
so.
we knew.
I think so too. And maybe he needs to sit down next time when we talk about the Fourth, Fifth, and Sixth Amendment, see what his take is on it. But I think he was impressed with the different backgrounds everybody has,
Mhm.
where the meeting was not just about gripes and complaints. It was serious topics of discussion to make things better for everybody. And
He said most groups don't ask the in-depth questions that we asked.
Yeah,
yeah,
we had it. We had a lot of questions.
yeah, and I had a question on behalf of Tim, and I was really impressed with Jim asking deep questions
Two-way
on
questions.
two-way questions, which is extremely important. And Dave is a two-way guy,
Hmm.
and I'd like to go shooting with him sometime. He to me he's a very genuine person. It's almost like a neighbor. If I need to go over and if either
Hang out.
ask for something, yeah, or hey, do you
Can I
need
borrow your lawnmower?
yeah, can I hey, you want me to bring my saw over and cut up some wood? He just seems
Right.
like a regular guy, very down to earth,
Agree.
and I like to know more about him. And but the good thing was I'm gonna tell you guys this: little things, little details impressed me the most about people. Dave showed up and he stayed the entire time.
Yep.
It wasn't like he was looking at his watch. Hey guys, I gotta go for whatever reason. He stayed and he stayed and listened to the whole entire time.
And
Which
stayed an extra half an hour
and stayed
afterwards to talk,
absolutely.
which was excellent.
Yeah, and so that right there says a lot about somebody, especially if they do care about a lot of the topics that we do. I mean, you should. I mean, people should be outraged over the amount we spend in taxes. People should be outraged on the school system, on how it's become just a complete train wreck.
How about just the meals in the school system too?
Everything. I mean,
Everything.
everything. The child trafficking, which people are not even aware of, the massive amount of just crime and
We're getting
theft
there.
and an immigration problem. People should be very concerned with this stuff. Those are big problems. And I think just interacting with Dave that day, I like him. I think he would be really good in that position, and we'll see what happens.
Hmm. Charlie, you got any last comments before we bring it home?
Yeah, well, since we mentioned elections,
Mhm.
just what we would like to see, just to repeat it so people are aware, we want paper ballots, same day voting,
Absolutely.
same day counting, and we want to have identification required. I'd like to see absentee ballots deadline be a week earlier, and have clean voting rolls. I got involved in trying to get something
We
moving to
tried.
get
Right.
the dead people off of
Right.
and the people that moved out of the state, and have a holiday for election day. I mean, all of that would be great if we had if we managed to get a few of those. Wonderful.
Well, it was brought up today when we were talking with Rodney about election integrity. Um, Early voting, I think, starts. Well, the primaries start the 17th, but early voting starts May 1st, if I'm not mistaken, May 1st or May 2nd, and
May
then
2nd,
for
June 17th,
right,
primary.
you know, for first off, we're going to do some election integrity training. In mid-April, I'm going to put a plug in for our election integrity guy, Rodney, because he does a phenomenal training on offices of election and poll watching and election integrity. And that's coming up in mid-April, so we'll have more information on that. Early voting does start on May 2nd, and the primary is on June 17th. So we have a couple more. We have a few people coming up. Almost anybody that's running for governor right now is coming up to a Mountain Patriots meeting. I'm not going to give out the address. If somebody's interested in finding out where we meet, you can go to mtpatriots@proton.me, mtpatriots@proton.me, and or hit our website, which is wakeupwinchester.com, and let us know that you're interested, and we'll get back to you. But we want to make sure that we pick the right people and we get people activated and moving. And what we learned today, again, Charlie, was 4 to 5% of the people actually vote in a primary. When we have 100,000 or 98, 100,000 people in Frederick County, you're talking about 5,000 people voting. I mean, but that other 95,000 people be the ones that are bitching and whining and complaining about what didn't work or what didn't happen. So I have a challenge for everybody out there. Get your butt out here. Come on out to our conference on June 28th. Learn what's going on with your elected officials. Jump in, ask us what you can do to help us, and we'll be glad to steer you in the right direction. I think Mountain Patriots,
And
our educational ministries, is a great place to catch up and meet. And we're going to build one in Loudon, which we've already started. Got one in Hedgesville, and we're starting to work with one with Kent over there in Warren. What were you going to say, Charlie?
we want everyone to give us your opinion, because we're giving you our opinion.
Right. Absolutely. We want feedback. So when we put these videos out, and we'll get a little bit more savvy with this, but we figured we'd start off with a conversation piece. And as things go on and we get a little bit tighter with this, I think the content today was excellent. Kent, I want to really thank you. And I see a
Sure, no problem.
smile. I see a smile in the background.
Yeah,
Okay,
she's letting me know the AmeriGas is filling our propane tank. That's what it is.
well, I'll tell you, she's our next chairperson.
That's it. You want to say hi? No.
But you know what?
What a
It's a
cutie.
good thing.
Thank
Good
you.
thing she's there in case Tim calls you.
Yeah, and he's been radio silence for quite a bit, so
Yes.
it's been
Well, pray
quiet
for
on.
him, guys.
I know.
I mean, there's a lot of people right now that are sick. A lot of people are sick lately, and we've been helping out with that as well. So, Charlie, any last thoughts before we close this down?
God bless.
God bless. Kent, what do you got to say, my friend?
I think I said it all, and we'll save it for the next one. So I digress to you guys.
Fantastic. Well, I want to thank you both for being here today. This is our first official podcast for Mountain Patriots Educational Ministries. Like I said, if you have any questions You can find us at wakeupwinchester.com and put your information in there. We'll call you back. Or you can go to mtpatriots@proton.me and send us an email, and we'll get some more information out to you. But until the next time, just remember we have our conference coming up. We meet every Monday night. We do have our next conference coming up on June 28th at Millbrook. It's actually the bingo hall over there. And there'll be some great speakers on education. We have the Liberty Man. I'm pretty sure, Charlie, the Liberty Man's coming. We have the clouds that are going to come talk about what's going on in the world. And then we have our elected officials that are going to come out and talk to us as well. So with that said, I want to thank you both.
Keep your
Yeah,
powder
Charlie.
dry. Keep your powder dry and your head on a swivel.
And ABC.
Always be carrying.
Always be carrying. Guys, have a very blessed day. And from Mountain Patriots to the world out there, God bless you. Keep safe. Like Charlie says, ABC. Have a great day, folks.